Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Raising vital funds for the growing number of people facing food insecurity.
The 37th annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day.
It's Food Bank Day here at CBC. Plus, a deadly infestation.
You can end up with top break. You can end up with branches that break off, so they do pose a public safety risk.
Why thousands of trees are being cut down in Stanley Park. And housing for women by women.
This project is one of the first of its kind in North America.
Breaking ground on affordable housing for women and families in Vancouver.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Dan is on assignment today. It's Food Bank Day here at CBC Vancouver. Phone lines have been open since 6 o'clock this morning, with several local artists hitting the stage throughout the day. And so far, more than $1 million has been raised thanks to the generosity of community members.
Well, good morning to you. I'm Stephen Quinn.
And I'm Amy Bell, and this is the early edition on the 37th annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day.
And here we have a look at the latest donations, a total of more than $1.35 million so far. Since CBC began hosting Food Bank Day nearly 4 decades ago, more than $18 million has been raised for our local food banks. And while the phone lines have wrapped up for the evening, you can still donate online for the next 24 hours until the end of the day on December 31st. Head to foodbanks.bc/CBC Food Bank Day. We'll have more on Food Bank Day later in the show, but first to the news of the day. Police are investigating the death of 2 people in Richmond. Officers were called to a home on Goldsmith Road Thursday evening following reports of suspicious activity. When they arrived, RCMP found the bodies of 2 people inside the home. IHIT is now investigating. Police have released little information and say they are in the early stages of the investigation. Well, it's a massive job, cutting down as much as 25% of trees at Stanley Park. Certain areas of the park will be closed off, on and off throughout the weekend as work gets underway. Thousands of trees have been devastated by an infestation of the hemlock looper moth. Yasmin Gandam on why the clearing is necessary for public safety.
Crews busy at work cutting down an estimated 160,000 trees as a result of a moth outbreak. And while it may seem like a lot of trees, forestry experts say the purge is needed.
We have some areas in the park with very, very dense forest or dense tree stands. And some of those are dead and dying, and those will be the kindling that will start a fire if there's a source of ignition. And we know there are lots of people using the park.
The park board says the tree removal is essential to restarting the forest afresh and giving it the strongest chance of withstanding future threats. And it's not just looper moths putting the forest through some tough times. The ongoing drought conditions have played a part as well. And that means without clearing the trees out, things could be dangerous.
You have a lot of dead trees, and with these dead hemlocks especially, you can end up with top break. You can end up with branches that break off, so they do pose a public safety risk. And that's why in a lot of publicly used areas, they may close areas off to ensure that no one is injured.
The majority of the trees impacted are western hemlocks, and once they're gone, there's a plan to replant with a variety of different trees including fir, cedar, maple, and alder. While the work will take several years to carry out, traffic in the area is expected to be affected over the coming months, starting this weekend. And today, cars already backed up on Stanley Park Drive with road closures coming into effect. And on Sunday, there will be lane closures on the Stanley Park Causeway as well, with cyclists and pedestrians detoured through the park. Anyone going to or through the park is advised to check on closures, especially on weekends. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
The province has unveiled the names of 8 stations set to be part of the SkyTrain extension into Surrey and Langley. The project, approved last year, will be a 16-kilometer extension of the Expo line running from King George Station to Langley City Centre. The extension is expected to cost around $4 billion. Some work has already started with the widening of Fraser Highway.
When you include the Broadway Subway project, which is tunnel boring underneath that part of Vancouver as we speak, the new Surrey-Langley SkyTrain, which will begin major construction next year in a few months' time, it represents together a 27% expansion on the original SkyTrain network. That's huge.
The SkyTrain extension is expected to be up and running by 2028. Nearly 140 affordable homes will be created for women and families in Vancouver.
This project is one of the first of its kind in North America, in that we are delivering housing for women by women.
The 13-story building will be near Vancouver General Hospital and is expected to be completed by 2026. It will provide housing for senior women, women-led families, and women with low incomes. The development is replacing an aging 21-unit building. All previous tenants will be given an opportunity to move into the new homes. Police in Saskatchewan say it's possible a missing mother and 3 children could be here in BC. They say Lindsay Merasti and her 3 kids were last seen in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan on November 22nd. According to police, she has twin 8-year-old sons and a 6-year-old daughter. They say the family could be traveling in a black 2018 Nissan Rogue with a Saskatchewan license plate. Anyone with more information is asked to contact Prince Albert Police. We're learning more about the 3 Kootenay Boundary Regional Fire Rescue members charged with assaulting a homeless man. The fire department has confirmed the men are firefighters and says an internal investigation has been launched.
Public safety is at the heart of everything we do. We are saddened and disturbed by these charges and the allegations. The RDKB does not condone this type of conduct on or off duty.
Gregory Farabee, Richard Morris, and Wesley Parsons have each been charged with 1 count of assault. Trail RCMP say the 49-year-old victim has recovered from his injuries following the April incident. The department says the 3 men are, quote, absent from the workplace at this time. It's not clear if they have been suspended, however. Trail RCMP says the motivations behind the attack will be presented at a future court date. BC's police watchdog is recommending charges against a Victoria officer in connection to a shooting death from more than 2 years ago. The shooting happened outside the busy Mayfair Mall in September of 2021. Saanich police were initially called out for a report of a man with a weapon making threats. Shortly after, Victoria police negotiated with the man in front of the mall. An officer shot and killed him during that interaction. The Independent Investigations Office now says there are reasonable grounds to believe the officer may have committed an offense and forwarded recommendations to the BC Prosecution Service. Meanwhile, the IIO has also been called to a fatal police shooting that took place at an Abbotsford hospital yesterday afternoon. Abbotsford police say an officer shot and killed a man that was reportedly armed and threatening staff at Abbotsford Regional Hospital. The IIO says officers had an interaction with the man before one of them fatally shot him. The IIO says is looking to confirm details about what took place. It's World AIDS Day, and the province says there's much to celebrate in the ongoing fight against HIV and AIDS. The BC Centre for Excellence in HIV and AIDS says this year marks a virtual end of the domestic epidemic, with cases falling to record lows. It's a long, long way from the early days when an HIV diagnosis was almost always a death sentence. That was the case for a well-known Vancouver artist, Joe Average, who was diagnosed with HIV when he was just 27 years old. Radio Canada's Monier Blanchette caught up with the artist, now in his 60s, to talk about the epidemic and why he stopped painting.
Where do you want me?
Joe Average exceeds his own name. The Vancouver artist is nothing short of a visionary. But the painter hasn't touched a brush in 20 years. Soon after, he was diagnosed with AIDS.
My doctor told me that I should consider getting my affairs in order and that I probably had 6 months left to live.
Unemployed, he decided to fully enjoy each moment of his life and started sharing his art with a wider audience.
The only thing that I ever got any attention for was the doodles in my notebook. And so I thought, well, let's put that on some bigger paper and see if we can sell this stuff.
To his amazement, his first exhibition was a success. His friends say this was largely due to his use of bright colors.
So he put orange in front of blue, and the blue was better. And so you could see little streaks of color, if you will, that just made the painting feel like it was alive.
Carol Sabiston was Average's teacher in high school. She says his art is even more striking, considering his private battles.
He's just an incredibly positive person. Knowing the adversity that he's gone through is really amazing. I know that he is well loved and well regarded by the entire community.
In 1994, Average created a painting titled One World, One Hope for the 11th International AIDS Conference, held in Vancouver 2 years later. The painting expressed fragility in the face of AIDS and the need to work together with love. That is his most well-known painting to this day.
That painting put me on the map. I'd say it's probably my favorite painting.
In 2021, he became a member of the Order of BC.
It's the way I want to see the world. Just happy and bright and colorful and without confusion. And it's my little love letters to the world, I think, are my paintings.
This tireless fighter has created a rich body of work, something he now takes pride in.
You are a wise elder. And I went, yes, I will gladly have that title of wise elder. I think I've deserved it, and I think I can fit that role. And so I'm very content being a wise elder now.
Monia Blanchet, CBC News, Vancouver.
Darius Madavi joins us now with our first look at the weather. Darius, it is feeling a little frigid out there these days.
Yep, and it might be a busy weekend weather-wise, and if you're on the roads, this is something to watch out for because several of the highways and mountain passes do have weather warnings in place, snowfall warnings for them entirely, actually. 10 to 20 centimeters of snow, expected for Kootenay Pass, the sea to sky from Squamish to Whistler, and parts of the Coquihalla. So be aware of that if you're planning on traveling this weekend. It might be a bit of a difficult commute. The other weather warning in place in the province is for parts of the south coast, especially the greater Victoria area and Metro Vancouver areas, where we have a special weather statement for expected high water levels. They're saying it could cause some minor coastal flooding, but really the severe concern about flooding comes late this weekend into probably early next week. We have several systems rolling through. You can see the impacts of one now coming through parts of the province, but it gets worse as we get later into the weekend. Tomorrow, a bit of a break for some parts of the south coast. Don't expect too much. Some rain tonight, but easing up tomorrow morning for much of the south coast, including here in Vancouver. But as we get later into the weekend, we're going to continue to see moisture coming through, especially on Sunday when we see another pretty major downfall come for some parts of the south coast. But as we get later into the weekend, it's really, later into early next week, when we see Monday to Wednesday, some very heavy rainfall that could mean some coastal, some dangerous situations, especially in terms of localized flooding and the possibility of landslides. So be aware of that, and we'll have more later this hour.
Thank you so much, Darius. Well, as mentioned earlier, it's CBC's 37th annual Food Bank Day. For an entire day, we dedicate our broadcast to raising funds and awareness for the more than 100 food banks across BC. Our Leanne Young has some of the highlights from today.
Oh, good morning to you. I'm Stephen Quinn.
And I'm Amy Bell, and this is the early edition on the 37th annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day.
I'm Dan Burrett.
And I'm Leanne Young. Welcome to our live special broadcast of the 37th annual CBC BC Food Bank Day.
BC today. So excited to be here with Michelle Elliott. And I'm so excited to be with Margaret Gallagher, hosting for the first time as host of North by Northwest on her birthday.
We are live at Studio 700 at CBC Vancouver. Welcome back to our special 37th annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day.
Yes, it's Food Bank Day at CBC, and for many of us, one of the best days of the year. A day where we celebrate your generosity and help our neighbors. And as you heard, the need is greater than ever.
We're just seeing more and more people coming to the food bank. Across Canada, I think the numbers are now 17% of people using food banks are actually employed, have a job. You know, single dads come up and, never thought I'd ever have to use the food bank. I'm really glad you're here. My rent just went up 25-30% and just can't make it anymore.
How is that affecting, donations coming into the food bank? Because, everybody's feeling that pinch on their wallets.
Yep, it's making life very hard for food banks because they are seeing a drop in donations. It's the reality. People have less to give.
We actually are still helping people that are displaced. So we still have 200 people that their house is burned down, and we're in behind the scenes. We're doing some Christmas stuff for them. So it's going to be a long recovery for them. And then on top of that, the biggest crisis we're in is inflation, right? And so we're actually serving more people now in December than what we were during the fire crisis.
I think it's important for us, for me especially, that I give myself, but also think about how to raise awareness about how this issue is a systems issue. So we also need to kind of collectively work towards making sure that, people are no longer hungry in this very wealthy country.
And boy, did all of you step up. You donated online, you called in, and while it wasn't an open house like years past, we were so happy to have you, our generous audience, show up at our Vancouver studio.
So what brought you guys in?
Oh, I mean, we used to come here before and really enjoyed it, and we like to, give back to the community, and CBC always puts on a really nice event, and I think it inspires people to donate to the food bank.
I think it just brings us all closer together.
It's about being grateful. It's a time of reflection to look at the abundance that we all have in our lives, and then to be able to share that fortune.
And we had a little fun along the way with wicked bands, big donations, special guests.
It's obviously, the time has never been greater for need. There's a food bank close to my house. I see the lineups all the time. And they've just gotten bigger.
But I think CBC does a very good job of connecting the dots between climate change and food scarcity and global conflict and why it is food costs are going up, and helping government communicate messages about why we're taking the actions that we are.
And stories of your generosity spanning city to city.
A group of supporters, they have called themselves the Friends of CBC Prince Rupert, missed the Food Bank Day events, and so they planned their own this morning at java.cup. I dropped by there first thing this morning, really early this morning. The sun wasn't even up yet, and they had exceptionally generous hearts, and they raised $1,885 in under 2 hours.
And the Campbell River Food Bank, just to name a few, but the Campbell River one really stood out to me this morning because, we talk about how much the need has gone up in the last year. In Campbell River, I had to ask this twice and hear the answer twice. They say the need has gone up 60% in 1 year. The demand for food at the Campbell River Food Bank has gone up 60% in 1 year. Can you imagine that?
Our theme this year is Give a Little Bit. With their buying power, food banks can stretch every dollar. To everyone who's already donated, thank you. You can donate on our website till the end of the month. Leanne Young, CBC News, Vancouver.
Across the province, people are doing their part to help food banks that are feeling immense strain and seeing record demand. In Kamloops, students at Westside Secondary are also chipping in to help those in need. Our Jennifer Norwell paid them a visit.
It's a fundraiser for the Kamloops Food Bank, and the idea is students make bowls and soup, and the public is invited to come buy tickets. All proceeds of the tickets then go towards the Kamloops Food Bank. So it's about my students doing something to help their community. It's about thinking globally but acting locally.
I think that for us as like a younger generation, I think it's important that we're really advocating for people and making changes, because we are the people that can make these changes happen.
We've been making bowls for the Empty Bowls project. We've also been hand painting ceramic bowls with enamel paint that'll be baked in the oven, and we've been painting acrylic paintings that'll be used in a silent auction for the Empty Bowls project.
This piece is a buffalo, and it comes from the indigenous culture. It's one of the 7 grandfather teachings, and the buffalo means respect.
We have students at our own school right here that face food insecurity, and other students who have no idea what that's like. And I think it's important for them to realize that even in their own community, there's a need out there and that they can do something about it.
I thought that it was a good opportunity to be able to help the community and be a part of the community.
The people who buy tickets and come and participate in our dinner event, I will be encouraging them afterwards to take the bowls home to keep, wash them out obviously, and then not use them again. If they leave them sitting somewhere in a spot on a shelf, just as a reminder that we have people in our own community that face food insecurity, and of course around the world, people that face food insecurity, so that they're reminded and perhaps are empowered or motivated to contribute and do something themselves in the future. So the idea that this is going to be bigger than just a one-night event as well.
Coming up, she's a Canadian soccer legend and a source of inspiration to so many. Christine Sinclair on her retirement and how she hopes her career will be remembered. That's next. Thank you for joining our commercial-free live stream. The owners of a private hockey school in PEI say the uncertainty around the town's rink is slashing enrollment and revenues, and the cost of the rink has doubled. But despite all this, the Mount Academy says it has no plans to leave. Wayne Thibodeau reports.
It's been real challenging.
Darren McDougall is still trying to stick handle through the challenges thrown his way. He's one of the owners of Mount Academy, a private hockey school based in North Rustico's new rink. McDougall says some parents couldn't distinguish between the rink and the school when they heard about the financial problems facing the rink and decided not to send their kids.
Parents got a little scared. The liens on the wellness center kind of reflected, or I'll say we wore that a bit. People couldn't distinguish between the two, so there was a lot of chatter that we weren't going to survive.
Enrollment dropped from 148 students last year to 86 this year. McDougall says revenues dropped too, from $3.4 million down to below $2 million, forcing the school to cut costs. Teachers, hockey school staff, and house parents were all part of those layoffs. McDougall says it all began with delays getting the rink opened. They planned to move in January of 2022. That didn't happen, but town officials promised it would be ready for the new school year in September of 2022. The Mount didn't move in for another 7 months. And when they did move in, it still wasn't finished. The school had to hire a chef to prepare meals for students because the commercial kitchen and canteen are still not operating.
We're losing out, but the town is losing out, obviously, on those revenues that they would have generated feeding our kids. And of course, there's 86, 87 kids, so that's a good chunk of business on a daily basis, right, that they're missing out on.
Students say it's all having little impact on them.
At dorms, we just have a chef and she cooks for us, and we'll just take our lunch here, if you were at home, packing your own lunch. And I think it would be cool to have a cafeteria eventually, but as of now, we're just making it work.
It's so good here. Like, I enjoy it like every day. It's like the best thing about my day, the hockey and the school.
Despite the challenges, McDougall says Mount Academy is on solid financial ground and is committed to North Rustico. It plans to build student housing next to the school and a high-performance training facility at a cost of about $15 million. But even those plans are on hold. The housing and the training facility were planned for here, the old ball diamonds next to the rink. Contractors were expected to start this fall, but liens placed against the town and the rink prevent the sale of the land to the school. McDougall hopes all of this can be settled soon so they can proceed with their expansion plans. Wayne Thibodeau, CBC News, North Rustico.
As Christine Sinclair prepares for her final 2 national team games in Vancouver, she spoke with Andy Petrillo of CBC Sports, sharing memories, including the Olympic gold in 2021.
You know, it's a bittersweet moment, I think, for a lot of fans, but I'm wondering how you're feeling, because here we are at the finish line, and I'm just wondering what kind of emotions are going through you.
Honestly, like, I'm good, and I always wanted to come to this point and arrive at this point in my career where, yeah, I'm okay with the decision I'm making and I've made. And, you know, after Tokyo, yeah, I knew I didn't want to play in Paris, but wanted to give the World Cup one more shot. And then with how the World Cup went, I was like, okay, we need to qualify for Paris. And then it's been kind of perfect to have 4 kind of send-off games. And I'm good. The team's in great hands. And I'm looking forward to vacation.
Does the body ache a little bit more? Because here's the thing, you are still playing pro.
Yeah.
You're still in great shape.
Yeah.
You still have a lot to give.
Yeah.
So what was the ultimate decision then with the national team?
I think I've always wanted to play like a year of pro. Yeah, I look forward to, you know, a year with Portland to obviously compete, try to win, but try to enjoy it. The national team is obviously a very enjoyable place to be, but it's also like the highest competitive, you know, environment. You're trying to win World Cups and Olympic gold medals. I've done all that, so I'm good.
As the Maple Leaf fills the air.
The cameras caught you after that final Jamaica game, the second, where you officially qualified for Paris, and the tears were there, and you were being consoled by teammates. Did you think that was your final game? Did you think that was it?
So up until that point, like, a decision hadn't been made, but like as that camp went on and even leading into that camp, there was definitely a part of me that was like, this is it. I hoped that there would be some sort of send-off game. You know, I've seen obviously previous teammates be recognized as they should be, and I was hoping that there would be that opportunity. I didn't know it was going to come, you know, this year. But yeah, to play a last game in Vancouver, yeah, you can't write it any better than that.
It is over. Brilliant! What a strike from one of the world's.
Let's talk about your legacy, because it's a big one, and let's start on the pitch. How do you want people to remember Christine Sinclair, the player?
I think just someone that like gave their all. Yeah, you are gonna make me cry maybe.
I'm not trying.
No, just like someone that, yeah, proud Canadian that gave their all, and through good and bad times with the national team, just stuck with it, and yeah, just hope to, yeah, leave the game in a better place. Then obviously, hopefully, known to have won a few things as well.
Julia Grosso from Vancouver to win it for Canada!
Heading into Tokyo, we know the mantra was change the color. You did just that. And oftentimes, you know, when athletes achieve this pinnacle in their career, they reflect. And they reflect on the hard work, what it took to get there. They reflect on people who helped them along the way. Who were you thinking of when you had that gold medal wrapped around your neck?
Oh God, like everyone that helped me get there. Like, oof, teammates that built this program up from scratch that, you know, never got that opportunity that we were given in Tokyo. Definitely my family. You know, my little nieces that they just thought it was the coolest thing. And now, you know, dream of representing Canada that, you know, I didn't have that when I was little. So to see the times changing and know that this is just the beginning for this team.
It was a year ago that we sat down, you were promoting your book. And it was really the first time you've also opened up about your parents. Do you think about them a lot?
Yeah, I mean, they're the best. Like supported me the entire way, gave up, sacrificed everything so my brother and I could live the life that we live today. And yeah, my dad stuck around to watch Rio, and then my mom, you know, got to watch Tokyo before she passed away. So yeah, I owe them a lot, and just continuing to try and make them proud.
Let's talk about your legacy off the pitch then, because you've also lent your voice for the women's fight, equal pay, equal treatment within the Federation. You've also lent your voice to showing the importance for a women's domestic league on Canadian soil. How has the women's game changed when 16-year-old Christine Sinclair stepped on the pitch to 24 years later?
Holy, like I said, like I think back to the first World Cup that I played in was the US, and we finished 4th, and aside from your like crazy fans, no one cared, no one knew. And to see the game where it is now, like countries that you never would have thought become a world power and now world powers, the investment that federations are putting into their women's programs, that leagues are putting it into their professional teams. It's exciting. When I'm done playing, like I can't wait to just become a fan and watch the game and be in awe of the talent that's out there. Unfortunately, I haven't necessarily seen that growth in Canada, which, as I leave this team, scares me a little bit.
Do you plan on still being involved when it comes to that fight?
Yeah, I mean, even though I might not be on the pitch, I've always got it in me to fight, to help grow the game, whether it's domestically in Canada or internationally. This game's been my life since I was 4, so I'm not just like quitting cold turkey, you know. Like, I'll still be around.
It was a vote that needed a big number to pass. 2/3 of the U.S. House needed to vote to boot George Santos. Why there was a bipartisan support and why he's gone. That's next.
This is probably my first time ever being on a team that has 103 sets won and none lost. So I think it's pretty crazy.
1, 2, 1! You know, I've had some really good teams, but obviously never any team at this level. We knew coming in after last year having a strong team and with a majority of them coming back that it was kind of going to be a year where we were going to have that really strong team. And I think right from the beginning they just kind of came in, and as a coach it was easy because they just kind of ran with it. They came in, they knew what to do. I think it's just a great experience for the girls. It's such a bonding thing, and you learn so many life lessons, like whether it's kind of learning to work with everyone and being on time and putting in the work and all that little stuff. I think the more kids that are involved, the better. I mean, I have 2 young girls and I try and push them into sports because I just think it's a great environment. Pressure's on, don't miss.
I feel like a lot of work has been put in, especially like everybody tries really hard at practices, and like in the games, especially if we're down, everybody works especially really hard to make sure we don't lose that set.
We all love each other, we all work well together, we know what works and we know what doesn't, so it just makes us win all our games.
Like we try and do team bonding too. We've had get-togethers at each other's houses, and like I think if we weren't as close as we are, the results would be different, but because we've never had a bond like this on this team, so I think we're pretty lucky this year.
Let's go, hustle in. You try and tell the girls, you know, school has to come first. They have to stay on top of that stuff. But it is a really busy schedule. We're kind of go almost every day of the week when we have tournaments. So it's hard to kind of stay on top. But again, that's kind of good things for them to learn that, you know, you have to set those things, make that time to get that schoolwork done, and also kind of make time for those bonding things as a team and get together and make sure that you're coming into the gym kind of ready to go.
And provincials are coming up this weekend. What can we expect there?
The biggest thing, we just try and keep ourselves motivated, keep ourselves kind of going at that elite level, kind of performing, executing at that high level.
I think just keeping our composure, playing the way we know how to play, and just all trusting each other.
And what would a win mean for this team?
I think it'd just be great for all the girls, whether they're this year and girls in the past. Kind of as a program, we've kind of been pushing and getting better and better, so it'd be great to kind of have that banner on the wall. I know it's been a lot of years here, so it'd be great for the school and for everyone.
To Washington now, where the U.S. House of Representatives voted today to expel embattled Republican George Santos from Congress. The historic vote came on the heels of a damning report by the House Ethics Committee. It found overwhelming evidence that Santos repeatedly violated public trust and may have used campaign money for personal use. Richard Madden has the details.
Disgraced former Congressman George Santos has left the building, expelled by an extremely rare historic vote. More than 100 fellow Republicans turned on the now former lawmaker, clearing the high bar of a 2/3 majority vote required to oust him.
Nobody takes any joy in this. This is obviously a somewhat historic moment. I fundamentally believe he's unfit to serve in public office, whether it was dog catcher in his local community or here in the halls of Congress.
Mr. Santos took not only my credit card personally, he took my mother's credit card personally, and he swiped them both for an additional $5,000, marking it as an overdonation.
Santos is already facing separate indictments for wire fraud and money laundering, but the final straw appears to have been that scathing congressional ethics investigation, a bipartisan one at that. It found evidence he may have stolen from campaign donors allegedly used to pay for his Botox treatment, designer clothes, and adult website OnlyFans. But Santos argued he hasn't been convicted of any crime, at least not yet, and hours before the vote, he portrayed himself a victim of an unfair process.
All of the work I've done in this body has been above board. Nobody can actually question my ethics and my conduct in Congress, unlike some of my colleagues who are on drunken tirades going after their former staff, but I'm the one being pinned for all of this nonsense.
Santos now joins an exclusive club, becoming the 6th member of Congress to be expelled in U.S. history. 3 were booted for treason for fighting for the Confederacy during the Civil War. And Santos's final words as he left the Capitol were reportedly, "To hell with this place." A by-election will soon be held for his district in Long Island, and Democrats signaling they're going to spend big, hoping to flip that seat blue. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
The week-long ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has ended, with fighting resuming in Gaza. Israel dropped leaflets over parts of the area earlier in the day, urging residents to leave. But the territory's health ministry, which is run by Hamas, says at least 100 people have been killed today. Sasha Petrusik has the latest.
Death and destruction returned to Gaza, along with suffering, as 7 days of truce ended this morning. Casualties pulled from fresh rubble. We are living in terror and dying of starvation, he says, all over again. Moments after fighting resumed, Israel unleashed 200 airstrikes against what it calls terror targets, blaming Hamas for firing rockets and refusing to release the remaining Israeli women and children taken hostage. The number is relatively low, but disputed.
Having chosen to hold on to our women, Hamas will now take the mother of all thumpings.
Most casualties were in the crowded south, where Israel earlier urged Gaza residents to move for safety. 2 million people trapped here. Like this man, whose house was destroyed, insisting it was only full of civilians. Hamas blames Israel for breaking the peace, saying it wouldn't accept the list of hostages Hamas suggested for release. American, Qatari, and Egyptian negotiators are trying to broker another truce, with the U.S. urging restraint.
I made clear that after the pause, it was imperative that Israel put in place clear protections for civilians and for sustaining humanitarian assistance going forward.
But aid shipments have stalled, and a UNICEF spokesman is posting warnings from inside Gaza.
The health system here is overwhelmed. This hospital simply cannot take more children with the wounds of war.
And the fighting in and over Gaza tonight looks like it never stopped, with rockets fired by Hamas and intercepted by Israel's defense system. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
It's been a slow start to the ski season in Alberta, mostly because there's no snow. Why the mild temperatures have some experts worried. That's next.
I have been in that CT scanner countless times. I can't even tell you how many times.
Michelle Hughes speaks from a personal experience. 2 years ago, she had pain on her right side. She went to the QEH and found out she had a rare form of cancer. It was discovered by a CT scan.
So the doctors were trying to figure this out, but it wasn't until that very first CT scan that I went in and they found 15 liver cysts, and one of the largest ones was my liver tumor, which was 7 centimeters large.
Hughes is grateful for the care she received, but she says the journey from the emergency department through the hospital to the scanner was difficult.
I can remember those long, winding hallway trying to get to that emergency scanner when I was a critical patient, and I'll never forget it. And I've been in that, unfortunately, again 3 weeks later when I took sick again. My cancer was even more aggressive at that time and had to have another emergency scan while at the emergency department.
Today, Hughes was surrounded by family, friends, and QEH staff to start a campaign for a new scanner for the emergency department. The goal is to raise $1.3 million.
Right now, the emergency department does not have their own CT scanner, so patients have to leave the well-resourced emergency room behind, all of its equipment, all of its doctors, all of its everything. So it's a lot about patient safety and just providing right care right there.
The campaign started with a $100,000 donation from the QEH Auxiliary, a volunteer organization that raises money through the coffee shop and gift shop in the hospital.
Our donors are so generous in Prince Edward Island, and to be able to put this out to the community, help us fundraise for it. It is $1.3 million, so it certainly is no small feat, but we are so grateful that hopefully our donors will be able to bring this as a reality to the emergency room.
The QEH Foundation is also raising money for a few other items, blanket warmers and cardiac monitors, for example. The group is also hoping to purchase a new system for the ICU, which would allow staff to check the vital signs of patients remotely. Tony Davis, CBC News, Charlottetown.
This time of year in Edmonton is usually cold and snowy, but this year it's a different story. No snow fell at all last month. As Julia Wong tells us, some are reveling in the warmer temperatures, but experts are concerned.
The club is getting ready to open, but there's a problem, a glaring green one.
It's really challenging to get people hyped for ski season when, there's green grass.
Mild temperatures mean the ski club is making its own snow, but that requires consistent sub-zero temperatures, which have been hard to come by.
I can tell you that we've all become addicted to our weather apps and checking it routinely to just try and keep an eye on the fluctuations of weather.
This is normally what Edmonton looks like this time of year, relentless and unforgiving snow and cold. The city typically gets 18 centimeters in November. This year, there was nothing, nada. Not a single flake fell over this city. The last time this happened was 1928. Some are okay with it.
Good for me with walking the dog and throwing the ball around.
It's fantastic. We're enjoying the weather.
Environment Canada says temperatures last month were about 5 degrees higher than average, and El Nino is creating warmer, drier conditions. This meteorologist says things will balance out, but there's a worry.
Climate change is leading to a lot more fluctuations of this kind of thing. So it is getting warmer, and the fact that it's been so warm for so much of this year is definitely a concern.
I have the backpack blower.
This Edmontonian who runs a snow removal company is also concerned. Business has been slow. So he's keeping busy maintaining his equipment.
I clean my tools, make sure I'm ready. I'm always ready, because we'll never know when the snow falls.
There may be a bit of a wait, though. There's no snow in the forecast, and temperatures are expected to be above zero next week. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our forecast. Darius, while we are getting some precipitations, what about in the prairies?
Yeah, it's not looking too great. As we heard, no snow in November, quite unusual. Not happened for close to a century now. Not getting any snow whatsoever, not just precipitation. And if we take a look, this isn't uncommon for an El Nino year. Now we are heading into a strengthening El Nino, and it looks like it's going to be a particularly strong one. The last time we had one of those was back in 2015 to 2016. And as you can see here, no parts of the province had more than 50% of their usual precipitation. Most parts of it were experiencing drought conditions or close to it. So dry conditions are typical for the prairies in an El Nino year, but this is a particularly bad one. And that's the case here in the province as well. We got a drought update yesterday, although we didn't talk about it, but the province announced that for parts of the coast, we've gone back up a drought level because we had that really dry week. Now, because of all the precipitation that is coming into the province over the next week, don't expect these conditions to stick around too long. We should drop back down a level by next week. But just be aware, this is really a good indication of how severe the underlying drought is, that just a week of dry conditions could put us back up a drought level. Now, we should take a look at the systems that are going to be rolling through. We'll notice lots of red for low pressure. A few times, a minor ridge of high pressure sets up for the south coast, and those are our dry periods that we're going to get right through the weekend. Still some considerable rainfall. We're talking close to 80 millimeters for coastal parts of the west coast of the island by Monday evening. And then for the east coast of the island, closer to around 40, 50 millimeters. And for Vancouver, similar amount there as well. We've got some considerable rainfall coming. You can watch that system pass through. Considerable rainfall overnight tonight, drying up a bit by tomorrow. So a mostly dry day tomorrow, maybe a few scattered showers popping up for parts of the south coast, but mostly we're talking flurries for the interior. And then as we see those other systems come through, plenty more rain and snow coming across the province. So it's going to be definitely a wetter one, and we can see a pretty major forecast or a pretty major system rolling through Monday night as well. So be prepared for quite a bit of rain coming. Now, in terms of temperatures, we have started to come up here on the coast. The interior will follow over the weekend as temperatures start to climb there as well, especially up north where we have seen some very low lows recently. If you look at our conditions, you can see all that precipitation coming throughout the province, lots of snow and rain coming depending on where you are and your elevation. And here in Vancouver, again, pretty consistent forecast with lots of rain on the way, but a bit of a break tomorrow. And again, even Sunday afternoon, we look a little bit drier, so shouldn't be too bad.
And it's time for... Darius, it is Fun Fact Friday, so you've got some science to back up why we should be donating, and it's because it makes us feel good. Is that true?
That is right, and so I decided to be all festive with my nice hat and tell you a bit about the science of giving. Now, we're lucky here at just here at UBC, we have researchers who work on this sort of thing. One named Elizabeth Dunn has been doing this sort of work for decades now. The first study I read of hers back in 2008, she gave people $5 or $20 and either asked them to spend it on themselves or go give it to somebody who might need it. And she found that the people who gave the money were much happier than those who didn't. And then in a later study, she also looked at what determines how happy people are in general. And so she looked at a bunch of things that you might expect to matter, like people's gender and their income level, which is quite predictive. But she found that people who donated money in the last month were just as happy as people who didn't donate money, but made $36,000 more than them. So if you have a choice between, if you don't think you're going to get a $36,000 raise sometime soon, just give some money. It'll make you just as happy.
Well, regardless of that, I think we have some pretty happy community members out there because we're going to take a look now at our current donations numbers. Here we see those donations are continuing to climb for CBC's 37th annual Food Bank Day. We are now sitting at just over $1.36 million. The phone lines, of course, are closed for the evening, but donations will continue online till the end of day, December 31st, and you can head online to make those donations. A Vancouver artist takes us behind the scenes of her new holiday music video with a creative and cost-effective twist right after this.
Coming in, what do we have on the bottom there? The 1080 for the King across the finish line. Hello, Mikkel Kingsbury.
She's solid. What does she have here for gold? Wow! Marietta, no, the score, 96.23.
The Moguls and Aerials World Cup seasons get started this weekend in Ruka, Finland. Here are the Canadian stars to know ahead of competition. Let's begin with moguls, a sport Mikkel Kingsbury has dominated for well over a decade. At 31, he'll be the oldest athlete in the men's field. However, there's no reason to believe he'll slow down in what will be his 15th World Cup season. The three-time Olympic medalist won 2 World Championship gold medals and 3 World Cup Crystal Globes, last year. And Kingsbury loves RVUCA. 10 of his 80 World Cup wins have come at the Finnish resort. Ikuma Hiroshima will once again be the one giving Kingsbury a run for his money in both moguls and dual moguls. The Japanese skier won 3 World Cup events last season. Sweden's Walter Wahlberg will also be someone to keep an eye on. The 23-year-old is the reigning Olympic moguls champion. Saskatoon's Maya Schwinghammer is the lone woman on Canada's full-time World Cup roster, but she could be in for a breakout campaign. The 22-year-old finished in the top 5 twice last season. When it comes to aerials, Marion Tano is the name that should get Canadians excited. At the last Winter Olympics in Beijing, she won bronze in the mixed team event. She followed that up with podium finishes in 4 of the 6 World Cup events last season. That included a victory at La Relais in January. On the men's side, Canada's Louis Irving and Emile Nadeau both landed on World Cup podiums last season. In fact, Canadian men finished top 6 in 5 of 6 events last year. Irving, Nadeau, and Mia Fontaine lead a promising team looking to take the next step. Moguls competition gets underway in RVUCA at 10:15 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, while aerial starts at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday. You can stream both events live and for free at cbcsports.ca and CBC Gen.
A Vancouver singer who loves Christmas just released a holiday music video using stop-motion animation.
She told us how she creates her fun and festive videos. Take a look.
My name is Jessica, and I'm a singer-songwriter from Vancouver, BC. I mostly do dance pop, but when it comes to Christmas, I can't help but go back to the classics, like the Frank Sinatra sort of vibe. Another year wrapped up, another Yuletide. My Mumu and Papa immigrated here from Finland, and every year on Christmas Eve, we would get together at their place and do presents and dinner. Kind of around the time that we stopped doing that, I started making Christmas music. It feels like a new tradition for me, I guess. Snow is falling and I hear... This band that I'm in called Gentle Party, we needed visual content, so we just thought, what can we do on the cheap, on the fly, and stop motion kind of rang some bells. So we did it, and then a couple months later, I was recording this Christmas song and felt the same thing. So I bought some Christmas ornaments and just started playing around with how to figure that out. This is the head of a Christmas ornament that I built a body for. I bought a bottle of wine one year that had a sweater on it, and I cut the arm off and just fit it over him, and it looked perfect, like a little Christmas sweater. So I would paint all of this, whatever color I'm gonna felt over, and then felt it. This is, I think, my eighth or ninth video. So I've done quite a few of these. The scene I'm excited for is the one where the moose makes this big mess in the kitchen, and Mouse wakes up and sees it and is so frustrated and goes off to a corner just with his head in his hands and finds an old photo album and sees a picture of them as youngsters. And then I'm gonna cut to like a memory take, like a flashback of them building a snowman together. And that's when it all falls together, is remembering exactly why, you know, they were friends in the first place. It's such a polarized time, and it feels so just aggressive sometimes. And I just would love for people to hear the song or see the video and remember that we're all humans, like existing the best way that we can, or the best way that we know how, so we could be more gracious to each other and just try to get along.
That is honestly so cool to see the behind the scenes. So many talented people here in Vancouver.
I love stop motion animation
Do
so
you?
much. Yeah, favorite Christmas movies.
Interesting.
For sure.
And also, fun fact, he's never seen Jingle All the Way, so we've got a movie to watch, absolutely. All right, sugar and spice and everything nice is on full display in London, England, just in time for the holiday season. Take a look at this mouth-watering gingerbread city created by the Museum of Architecture. All structures are completely edible and are sure to satisfy any sweet tooth.
Ingredients include popcorn, chocolate, gummy sweets, and loads of icing. It took more than 100 architects, engineers, and designers to make the tasty creations.
The exhibition is sponsored by a UK charity that promotes sustainable designs to help tackle climate change. It opens to the public tomorrow and runs until January 7th. All right, of course, it is Food Bank Day here at CBC. So before we end our show, let's take one more look at the total amount of donations raised. Here we can see $1.36 million so far. And the phone lines have closed for the evening, but donations are still coming in online. You can, of course, head to the website to donate till the end of day, December 31st. Thank you so much for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on our free CBC Gem app, as well as on our YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
We'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Good night.
Good night.